Thank you, John, McKenna, Pam, Jay, and choir. That was lovely. Last Sunday, we read about the baptism with which Jesus would be baptized. That is, his ministry that would end in crucifixion. Today's gospel lesson, Mark 10, verses 46 through 52, found on page 823 in the Pew Bibles, foreshadows Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem as the Son of David. Here, Jesus encounters a blind beggar named Bartimaeus and restores his sight. You're invited to follow along as Rachel reads this morning's text.
They came to Jericho as he and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho. Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he is calling you." So, throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately, he regained his sight and followed him on the way.
The story that Rachel just read narrates the last healing, the very last healing in the Gospel of Mark. In a previous healing, Jesus remedies the man's blindness by spitting and using his hands and laying on the hands and healing him. But in today's account, Jesus heals Bartimaeus immediately. No spit, no mud, just go. Your faith has made you well. Can you imagine such a thing? Now, despite my ancestors and whatever they did to earn our last name, if my eyes needed healing, I would definitely go for the spitless approach. Wouldn't you? Several of you have said to me that you've had cataract surgery recently or LASIK surgery, and from what you tell me, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. You can see the colors again. They're brilliant and deep, and you can see in ways that you couldn't before. My 87-year-old mother, bless her heart, put off such surgery until recently. And after it was done and she healed, she looked in the mirror and she was devastated. Yeah. You know, sometimes when our eyes are opened, we see more than we bargained for, wrinkles and all. I did manage to dissuade her from plastic surgery. At this point in her life, I just said, "Mom, we love you just the way you are." It would scare the great-grandchildren. So imagine being blind your entire life and then seeing yourself and everyone else in your life for the very first time. That's what happens for Bartimaeus today. He's healed without a drop of saliva. And today's story is unique for other reasons. In the previous healing, the crowd brings the blind man to Jesus. They have to climb up on a roof and open a hole and let him down to get to Jesus. But in today's text, the crowd, instead of encouraging, is actually an obstacle for Bartimaeus. They discourage him from catching the eye of Jesus. And so he doesn't listen to him. He overcomes, he persists, and he says, "Mercy, have mercy on me." And Jesus heals him. Then Jesus says, "Go, your faith has made you well." Mark 10, verse 52. Now, anyone familiar with the Gospel of Mark, we expect that Bartimaeus is going to do what everybody else that gets healed in the Gospel of Mark does, because Jesus tells them, go and tell no one. Go and tell no one. But instead, he says, go, Bart, go. And Bart stays. He stays. And he follows Jesus. So that's another very unique thing about this story. No spit and no go. I mean, he stays. He follows Jesus, and he does so with his eyes wide open. There's something unique and special about this guy. Even while blind, Bartimaeus sees what other people don't see. What do I mean? Well, he calls out Jesus, Son of David. In other words, he understands this regal title, this royalty that he represents. And it'll become more clear, this Davidic heritage, 2 chapters from now, when it's spelled out that this title is associated with the Anointed One. And the Anointed One is the one who sees the needs of others and acts on their behalf. The Anointed One. The one who is all about delivering the oppressed. The one who persistently sees and strengthens other people. That's why it's so troubling to read how the crowd behaves in today's text. Initially, anyway, they are very discouraging. These are not fun people. They don't want the blind man, for whatever reason, to bother Jesus, right? Can you imagine? Why is it sometimes that the people who claim to be closest to Jesus make it so difficult for others to access him? Holy huddles can be difficult to break into sometimes. In the 2nd chapter of Mark, a blind man's friends, as I mentioned, have to cut a hole in the roof just to give him access, to get past the crowds that are encircling Jesus. Earlier in today's chapter, the disciples speak sternly to the children. And Jesus has to say, no, let the little children come to me. This is a time when children didn't even count as real people. They're to be seen, but not heard. Well, perhaps, best case scenario, the disciples are just trying to protect Jesus. They don't want to overwork him, right? They don't want to overwhelm him with needy people. More likely, though, I think, the disciples are less welcoming to some because they see some as less valuable. That included children, but it also included people with disabilities. They were to be stigmatized, not welcomed, especially if they engaged in that disreputable occupation called begging. What else is a blind person going to do in Jesus' day but to beg? And what inspires me in this story is good old Bart. He's not dissuaded by the rebukes of the crowd, the insider group, the ones who claim to be able to speak on behalf of Jesus. No, he persists until his shouts are recognized. He understands that being restored to honor, being restored to productivity, being restored to well-being requires not only the mercy of this Son of David, but he's going to have to do something. He's going to have to overcome obstacles. He's going to have to persist. He must refuse to be defined by his circumstances. Wow. To refuse to be defined by his circumstances. Not only that, he refuses to be defined by others and their expectations of him. Those who assume to speak on behalf of God, who don't extend a welcome. Look what Bart persists. Look what his persistence does. It unleashes a wave of blessing and transformation. First, he calls out to Jesus for mercy, and then Jesus actually calls for him. Hey, call him over. Call him over. And now look what happens. These people who were trying to Jesus block him, all of a sudden are transformed. They're transformed. They say things like this: take heart, get up. Hey, he's calling you. It's right there in the scripture. What happened to the social stigma? What happened to the insider's stern speech? Hey, they've changed. Right there, they've changed. They changed from jeering to cheering for this guy. Hey, he's calling you, man. Get up. Take heart. Get up. Get on your feet. Jesus sees you and wants you, welcomes you. Get up. What a beautiful transformation on the part of the insiders and how they see the other. Up he goes. And what old Bart does next is profound. He comes to Jesus and he casts aside his cloak. Now, we who have closets full of clothing might have a difficult time appreciating what that symbolizes. He is removing the only piece of clothing he probably has to keep him warm at night. Some scholars associate this throwing off of the cloak as an image of one who leaves his former life behind. And I have to ask, what impact do you suppose this healing story has on those people who kind of have always, they've grown accustomed to having honor and privilege and affluence and prestige? What impact must it have on them with closets full of clothing to see a man whose only cloak he tosses aside in the presence of the Son of David? I mean, it's one thing for a poor beggar to cast off an old cloak, but it's another thing for people with substantial wealth and privilege to cast off their former ways of seeing the other and responding to him in need. Today is the first Sunday in a 4-part stewardship series titled Imagining Together. And each message is going to feature some videos from either members or from the many organizations that we support. And our task will be, and I'm charging you with a task today, to imagine. Let's imagine together how our beloved church can partner with God to better see the needs in our community. You know, last night there were, I'm told, they stopped counting after 450. Our target audience for our strategic plan, they were all there last night, age 30 to 50. That doesn't mean if you're not in that age group, you're not welcome here. All people are welcome here. But as far as those who are really trying to engage strategically with programs and such, special emphasis on that age group. They were here. They were here last night. How can we imagine them being here? What would it take? What would it take to imagine together how our beloved church can partner with God to see the real needs? You know, maybe a parenting class that we can offer. Maybe a support group for moms. Maybe a support group for working dads. I don't know. Let's imagine together how we can partner with God and we can address those needs with mercy and love and generosity. You know, Bartimaeus' story leaves us reflecting on the life circumstances of the world's poor, the world's destitute, and there sure is a lot of that right now, especially in certain parts of the world where the last hospital was blown. And it opens our eyes, in a sense, to pay closer attention to those who are continuously calling out for help. We need medical supplies. We need basic necessities. We just need clean water. We need mercy. Sadly, many of what we would call, or Jesus calls, the least of these, they have no security blanket. They have no coats to keep them warm. They don't even have hope that life's ever going to get better. In what ways are our words, reflective of the ones offered in today's text? Do people in need hear, "Take heart, cheer up, get up, on your feet, God loves you"? Or do they hear something else? far less kind, far less welcoming, far less encouraging, far less uplifting. I learned at the executive board last week that our cotton candy team raised over $5,000 for charity at the hometown fair. Not to be outdone, the Mariners raised over $7,000, serving up their famous pepper bellies. One of the many things I cherish about MBCC is how well our church loves and serves and gives. Last night, the haunted house was opened an hour early for children with special needs and those who might otherwise, like Luigi, be too scared. Scared by the cast of 44 actors in their frightening roles. Steve Norris and his amazing crew of engineers and creatives custom built an elaborate jungle ruled by giant spiders and snakes and all things creepy and crawling. And what touched my heart was seeing how Steve recruited a vast army of builders and painters, including a talented and hard-working, temporarily unhoused person. The Wednesday work crew welcomed this unhoused person, and he served alongside them this past Wednesday, and it touched my heart as I was walking into the office. There he was, bent over by the weeds, clipping away, while some of the other Wednesday crew were talking and watching him work. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He's a young unhoused person. No, those guys, they're always on their knees working hard. I'm just kidding. I love them. The ability to see someone in need, though, that's my point. The ability to see somebody in need, to really see them, not as a threat, but as a person of worth, and welcome them to partner with us in ministry, that just chokes me up. It's a beautiful thing. Good on you, Wednesday crew. Good on you, Steve. Here's how one of the relatively new members of our church has experienced our welcome.
I started going to MBCC about a year ago. I did a lot of research. I went to all kinds of churches, places in the South Bay, and found that MBCC was the most welcoming. No matter who you are welcome here. That is something they truly embody. You are just immediately when you walk in, you just feel like you're welcome there. And that's what kept me staying. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to find another place because it really felt like, yeah, I'm welcome here. And every time I do anything with the church, now I'm involved with a committee and I go to events. Every single time I go there, I feel truly welcome. And that matters because no matter where you are in your life at any given time, if you're up, you're down, you're high, you're low, you want to just feel like you're supported no matter what. And I know there are so many people there, like almost dozens of people who I feel like I can just smile at and I'll get a smile back. And that matters because you want to be able to have people who really get to know you and why you're there. So I support them financially because they give me so much and I get so much out of it that I want this community, this MBCC community, to truly thrive. I want it to grow. I want people to see how welcoming it is, how wonderful it is to feel the love that you get just sitting in the sanctuary on any given Sunday, or getting to meet people, getting to know people, and going to the events. There's so much that this church does that it's important that I give back to it just as much as it gives to me.
All right. Good on you, church. Yeah, thank you, Kara. Is Kara here this morning? Oh, there she is, right there. Good on you. Well, true to our DNA, the Women's Fellowship recently hosted a delicious luncheon and presented a wonderful local organization called A Sense of Home, which seeks to help young people who are aging out of the foster care system. And these youth usually leave with all their worldly belongings in a suitcase, or quite often a trash bag, and they're sent on their way with little support. A sense of home helps them to seek employment, find an apartment, and have a supportive community during this very difficult new chapter in their lives. Our adult discussion group featured Executive Director Rachel Stitch, who shared many opportunities that we have to donate financially. We can donate furniture. We can donate our labor to this wonderful ministry. And our brilliant videographer, Tim Lovekin, captured this moment with Rachel.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and I'm the Executive Director at A Sense of Home. We work with former foster youth to help them secure housing, create a home, create a sense of community, and provide wraparound services so that they can thrive and not just survive. Youth have a very high percentage of experiencing homelessness when they age out of the foster care system. 50% of our homeless population in Los Angeles spent time in foster care, and 1 in 4 youth will become homeless when they exit the foster care system within 2 years. So it's extremely vital and essential for us to be connecting to them upon aging out so that we can ensure that they don't become homeless. A Sense of Home works with youth to ensure that they not only have a roof over their head, but they really feel like they have a home. We fully furnish their items, 333 items go into each home. And then we provide a community for them where they can utilize us for access to resources, including free therapy, scholarships for education, support with employment, legal support, parenting support, anything that they need, we're there to help them and really be their community because they didn't have that growing up themselves.
I'm excited to see how we rally around that amazing, wonderful local organization. Imagine the young lives that will be forever changed by the love they receive at such a vulnerable stage in their lives. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Old Bart teaches us that we have to imagine. We have to have eyes to see, to imagine together. It makes all the difference in the world. Some people call that faithfulness, to imagine that way. Faithfulness. Jesus says it's what makes Bartimaeus well. Imagine that.